Hello everyone, welcome to the Damola experience. It still feels very surreal to even say that, but we are here. And a bit of introduction about me. I'm Damola, an AI and workflow automation consultant. I specialize in building everything between voice AI agents, chatbots, and automating workflows. And the fun fact about me, I also have a medical degree. Yes. And I say that because a lot of people feel like you have to have a technical background before going to a field like workflow automation. But take it from someone that took that leap of faith. It is possible. You can do this. Now, for my very first video, I was actually tempted to talk about AI agents. It's trendy, it's clickbaity, but then I felt like that would, only serve my ego, which defeats the purpose of what I want this channel to be about. I wanted, something that really speaks to my audience because you actually the hero in this story. You are devoting something that is very precious to you, which is your time, to invest in getting better at something. That is by no means a small feat. So I then decided we're going to talk about data. Now, if you're into AI, you all know that data is the bedrock of AI. Data is the bedrock of workflow automation. Like data worked so that AI could run, and it only makes sense that way. And also, in my own journey, if there's something that's contributed, the most improvement to how I deal with building workflows and all like that, it is understanding data. So yes, we're talking about JSON today, and let's just get right into the video.
The very first thing you want to do. Thankfully, I was able to do my research and find this. So today's tutorial is courtesy of this particular person. So you go to N8N under templates and search for JSON basics or JSON basics. You're going to see this by Lucas Perry. So Lucas, shout out to you. Because I was thinking of starting all over again and having to build a presentation and something like this. But with this now, we can just go ahead and get tutorial started. So you just click on this click to explore, and then you can copy this workflow and paste it into your own canvas, which is what I've done here. So Lucas, again, thank you and shout out to you for doing the hard work already. So now we're starting with JSON. Now JSON just stands for JavaScript object notation. And let me just forget about the name for a moment. I want you to really get this. So let's say, for instance, now you meet me and I want to introduce myself to you. There's some basic information. So let's say I tell you, hey, how you doing? I'm Damola. I'm a man. I'm a workflow and I'm an AI workflow automation consultant. And if you're asking if I love food, yes. Now, so I've told you that information now, and then you want to go and relay that information to someone else, let's say your friend. Now, you're going to relay that information that I told you. You're not going to use the exact word I used. You say, "Oh, I met this guy today. His name is Damola. He said he likes food, and he's a man, and he's also something about work automation consultants." Now, we've basically passed the information I told you, but you didn't pass it in the exact way I did. You know. Now, if your friend wants to go and gist, another friend, you'll be like, oh, okay, this person said that she met or he met one person named Damola that he likes food and is a work for an consultant and is a man. You know. Now, in each of those instances, from one person to the other, the way I structured my introduction became different. So I told you and you told it in a different format. Although we're saying the same thing, but we're not saying it in the same way. Do you understand? Now, what this is a problem. No, between humans now, we understand and we can relate with ourselves and relay information in that way. But for programming in computer and all like that, that is not really allowed. We need a way that information or data can be structured in a very consistent format, such that as it is passing from this person to this person, or from this system to this system, the message is consistent. So if I tell you, I'm Damola, I'm just going to read that information to another person. You also say that, oh, I'm Damola. That's the same information. It has to pass from one person to another person in a very consistent format. Now, what allows us to do that in programming is JSON. So that now, let's say you want to go and meet a king, so the three of us, me, you, and your friend, and the king first calls me to the room. Let's say this king is the AI agent in the workflow world now. And the king say, okay, what happened today, or what did you tell this person? I'll say, oh, I told you that I'm Damola. And now the king calls the next person, which is you, and say, what did they tell you? I'm Damola. The exact same way. Now the king calls the third friend, that's the third input into that AI agent now, because the king this is the AI agent. Now, what was the information passed to you? I'm Damola. So you can see in that way, from between one person to another, the message remains consistent. The message is structured in a very consistent way. Now, JSON allows us to do that, allows us to structure information where we have a key. Now, let's say my name is Damola. Now, that name is a key, a tag. Now, that name represents a value. In this instance, it is Damola. My occupation, or what I do, so occupation is a key again. Now, that occupation represents a value. So in each instance, then my gender too, I'm a man or a male. That again, the gender in this instance is what? The key, and then the value is the man or the male. So you are seeing all of these instances now, we have a key, and that key, is structured or is paired with a value, with a corresponding value. So that key value pair in programming is called a JSON, where the key, like I said again, is just think of it like a label. So a key, can be country, and then the country, let's say USA, can be a location, location or a city is a key, and the value of that key, that city, Lagos. And I said that now, so that's when you have that key value pair, that's a JSON object. So people can call it JSON object, JSON item, it's still the same thing. So if I zoom in here a bit, so which is what I'm explaining here. So in this instance now, we have this name. Let me zoom in again. So we have this name called, this is my key here. The value is John Doe. The age is another key. The value of that age is this 30. He has children is a key. The value is yes. Now, phone numbers, you can see this is one number, this is another number. So we've established in the very first instance that, okay, we have something called a key value pair. And now, whenever you see a key value pair at its introductory level, that key value pair together is called, when it's enclosed now, because it also needs to be enclosed, it's called a JSON object or JSON item, which is what is explaining here. Now, just like in English now, there's grammatical rules. I can't say, let's want to say, okay, I ate rice. I can't want to express that to someone else and I'll say, rice ate I, or rice I ate. That doesn't make sense grammatically. Also, in programming, in machine, I'm sorry, in programming in the computer world, there's a rules, or there are rules, or there are sets of rules that guides how things are written. Now, that set of rules that guides the structure of data between each system is called syntax. It's just like it's saying again, like you're saying, okay, there's grammatical rules. Now, in programming, in the computer world, there's also syntax. Syntax is just a set of rules that guides how data is being structured, such that number one, it makes sense, it is consistent, and that there's also that ease of transfer, and ease of interpretation of that data between one system and the other. In anything between one node and the other, data is consistent. Data is structured in a very consistent way that each node understands what the input is, and then it can then work on that input to generate an output. Now, so that is what is called syntax. Now, in syntax, a key value pair, is called again, like I said, a JSON object. But now there are rules. Now, the key in this instance, you are seeing this thing here, must always be enclosed in a double quotes. That is one rule. If there's no double quotes, it's going to throw up an error, because you've not followed the rules. There are rules of guidance. There's a rule of conduct here, and the rules of conduct states that each key must be enclosed in quotes, double quotes. Now, the value on the other hand, like you're going to see subsequently, doesn't necessarily have to have a quote. And I'm going to explain why to you and how that makes sense. But note that again, I said that you have a key value pair and that your key must always be enclosed in double quotes. That's the key. So, for instance, I want to write name here. That name must be enclosed in double quotes. And now the value doesn't necessarily have to be in double quotes. It's going to make sense. So let me just first execute this workflow so that the data is being passed through and it makes sense. Right, so that's good. Now, if I need to say anything, when you see green, you like to say green basically. If you are saying green, that's success for you. That is, you are doing something right. Now, so I've executed the workflow now. So I'm going to go ahead now to look at each node and see how the data is being transferred, and I'll explain this in real time. So if I go ahead to open up this node now, so let's look at what I'm saying. And mind you, so this is an edit field node in anything. I just oh sorry, the creator has already renamed this. So you can just rename your note in anything. So this has renamed to key and value. Now the edit field is a very, very useful node. I'll keep preaching the gospel of the edit fields. It's very useful in data transformation, data manipulation, and all like that. Now, in this instance now, so in anything, you can create a new JSON here. So this has been named key, but I can name it as basically a name, and the value of that name again is Damola. So what I've done basically. So if I run this now, and so this is an input panel in anything. This is a node. Now what is entering that node? This is the input panel. This is what is entering into this node. And then depending on the function of that node, the node is going to execute based on this input and then produce an output. Now, like I said again, we have a key value pair. Now I just edited this to the key to name and then the value to Damola. And then let's say this is another key. So let's say age, and I put 20. Now so there's something called that data types in anything. Now one data type is a string. One data type is a string. But before we go there, let's just use this note to explain the key and value. So basically, that's just key and value. So if I execute it now, this just look at this. Let me zoom in. Just look at what is going to happen. So once I execute this step now, you see how this is going to change. So you see the name, which is a key. The value of this name is Damola. The age is 20. Like I said, I'm going to explain. This is not how this is meant to be written, but you understand in the next few minutes. But for now, so like I said again now, this is enclosed. Now, another rule of in syntax now, the rule of conduct is that your key value pair must be enclosed in curly braces. So by zooming again, you can see this is a curly brace. This is a curly brace. This is a key value pair. This is one key value pair. Name is the key, Damola is the value. Name is age. Sorry, the key here is age, the value is 20. Like I said, this is not the right way to write this, so I'm going to explain subsequently. And now, so these key value pairs that are enclosed in these curly braces, so let me just highlight it again. So between here and here is called the JSON object. This key value pairs that is enclosed, that's another rule of conduct. It must always be consistent. It's called a JSON object. Now, if you want to send an input, an output to another node, you want to transfer information from one node to another, it must always be enclosed in this square brackets. Again, these are rules that must always be followed. Such that, let me show you a very good example now. Such that, so you can always edit your outputs in anything. Just look at what's going to happen. If I remove this now and I click on save, see what happens. I clicked on save and it went by default again. It's put this there because it must always be there. It must. Without this, the information that is being sent does not make any sense. And you're asking, okay, so what does this mean then? It means that this JSON object that is going to be sent is going to be sent as a list. So this is, again, this is always going to be sent as a list basically. That this JSON object here is going to be sent as a list. Now you're asking that, okay, why does it have to be a list? It's just, again, it's the rule of conduct in programming in between this in computer system, where I want when you are sending something, an information, one data from one system to another, is sent as a list, such that at any point in time, you just know you're expecting a list. Whether that list contains one item, which in this instance is true, or I just have just one JSON object, one just item, or let's say it contains three, you just know that whatever input you're receiving is going to come as a list. So that consistency, of that structure just makes sense. Now, so I've explained key value pair, and again, I said this is wrong. You don't represent age. Age is a number. You don't represent it as this, but you're going to understand now when I explain what a string is. So we have data types, and the first data type is string, and string is just simply text. Now, the text is always enclosed in double quotes, which makes so that's another rule now that okay, the rule states that anything in double quotes is going to be treated as a string, regardless whether it's a number, it's date, as long as it is enclosed in the double quotes, anything or the next whatever is receiving that information is going to treat it as a text. Now, so let me open this note and explain to you. So for this instance now, in this instance, we are going to have this is our key and this is the value of that key. Now, whenever let me talk about icons now. So when you see, so let me zoom in. So there are different icons in anything. Anytime you see this AB, it means a string. In this instance, you've already written the name here. But let's say, so when I start to explain something that you're going to understand, look at now, I know that this is a string. You need to ask, Damola, how do you know that? It is because I've seen this AB here. Now, age, although is a number, but this instance, because I put double quotes in the previous note, the computer is treating, or anything, this note is treating it as a string. You can see what I'm saying now. Whatever is in a string, in a double quote, is going to be treated as text. That's just what I want to understand here. Whatever is in a double quote is going to be treated as. So if I go here now, you see it now. You can see. Because so there are different views. This is schema, table, and JSON. In this here, I put this. So let's say, I can't edit here. Okay. So, but we're going to see subsequently. I put this in a quote, and that is why it's being represented as a string. So string is basically just text. Whatever is in a wrapped in double quotes, you can see this name, this is a double quotes, this double quote. So it's going to be treated as a string. Here it is wrapped in a double quote, another double quote. Although naturally this is a number between you and I, but again, like I said, these machines are very, very consistent. As long as it's wrapped in double quotes, it's going to be treated as text. So that is the first one. String is text. So let's go to the next node. Now let's see number. And where we start with this thing starts to make sense. So now this is another data type is number. And look at now. So numbers are represented by hashtags. Let's quickly execute this previous node. So numbers are represented as hashtags. Unlike in so let me do this. You can see here now, I know that this is a string. Why do I know it's a string? I can see this AB representation here. This one. Now, this on the other hand is a number. Now, let's say I want to represent, so let me put this age now. Let me do this as age as 10. And then you're going to see, so just watch what happens here. So I've changed the key to age and then the value is 10. Now, because I didn't enwrap this in any double quotes, it is being treated as a number. Now, let me give you a very practical example. So in anything, you can switch between fixed and expression. Now, fixed it just means that that value is going to be consistent from between, like if that value is being sent between one node to another, it's always going to remain this as it's going to always remain as 10. It doesn't change. But expression allows you to perform operations, or you can just make a variable very dynamic. So let's say I want to do this now. I want to just give a very practical example. Okay. So let me change to expression. All right. So I did it now. This is a number, right? So let's say 10 plus, sorry, say 10 plus 10. You can see the value is 20. Now why? And why is it 20? Because these are numbers, Abi. So if I do this, what am I doing in this instance now? I'm converting this to a string. And why am I converting to, or how do I now convert it to a string? Because I've wrapped it in a double quote. Now you can see that the math doesn't make any sense again between we humans, because 10 plus 10 is not 10. It's basically 20. But the computer doesn't know that, because what the computer is seeing is that this is a text. It's just like saying I do this hello. So if I put hello, you're saying hello 10. So these things are very, very, very deterministic. They are very, 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 very strict on these rules. As long as it is enwrapped in this my double quote, it's going to be treated as text. Regardless of whether it's a text or whether it's a number, it's going to be treated as text. Now, see if I remove it again now. So let me remove the double quotes. Then you see, okay, sorry. So if I remove the quotes, so it goes back to being a number, and then the value makes sense, which is 20. So it's important to note that. So let me just come back here. Alright. So so that is all about numbers basically, the number data type. Again, so this is one JSON object. So let's move to the next node. Now the next data type is Boolean. Now again, just forget, don't be overwhelmed by the name. There's nothing above you. You can understand this thing. So Boolean simply means okay, is something true or false? So let's say again, this is a key JSON example Boolean. We are going to change it to so right now let's say I'm hungry. I say, is he hungry? Or I put hungry. Now it can either be true or false. In this instance it is false. So you can see if I click on this, if I double click on this now, you can see the only two outputs in the Boolean. Is that true or false? Those are the only two outputs. And now the icon for Boolean is a check mark. So anytime you see a check mark, you know that this is Boolean. Again, numbers are represented by hashtags. Strings is by the icon AB. Boolean is by a check mark. And then, like I said, Boolean is either, okay, is the outcome true or false? So it's very, very simple. So far now, we know that, okay, we have key value pairs. And a key value pair enwrapped in a curly brace is called a JSON. So if I execute this, you can see this is a key, hungry, the value is false. And it's enwrapped in this curly brace. This makes it one JSON object or one JSON item. Now, a very important rule to note is that Booleans do not have a double quote. Because if I put a double quote here, I've effectively converted it to, it's no longer a Boolean. Now, remember I said anything in double quotes is a string. So the rules, in syntax, the rules of conduct says that your Boolean value must never be in a string. Because if it is in a string, in that string means if it is in a double quote, the system is not going to treat it as a Boolean again. It then becomes, a string. Same thing with a number. A number should never, like we saw earlier, a number should never be represented in double quotes. It must always remain its true value. Because once I put double quotes around it, it does not become number again. Same thing with Boolean. So you have to know these rules. Rule says that for Booleans, you must never represent them with a double quote. So that's just about Boolean. Now, null. Now, null is just the absence of a value. So, if people commonly confuse that, okay, when you say null, does that mean that zero? No, zero is actually a number. Does that mean that it is empty? No, empty is not the same thing as null. Null means the intentional absence of a value. So that is just about that one. So let's move to an array. Now, an array is basically just a list. And that's just the meaning. Anytime you see array is a list. And the icon for array, if I zoom in now, is this like menu like option here. This means an array. And you can see, so again, the rule of conduct says that your array must always be enclosed in square brackets. You can see this square bracket and this square bracket. It must always be enclosed in square brackets. And then each value must always be separated with a comma, except from the last value. So this instance now, if I was going to ask you what data type is this, I know that this data type, is a string. And why do I know it's a string? Because it's enclosed in double quotes. This is a number data type because I can see it doesn't have a string, it doesn't have double quotes. Once I put a double quote on it, it's no longer a number again. It becomes, the computer is going to treat it as a text. Now, this is a Boolean. Why do I know? Because the value is false. And Boolean only have two outcomes. Is that true or false? And then this is null. So I wrapped all of this, and then again, I know this is an array. Why do I need? Because they are all wrapped in a square bracket. So if I'm going to execute now, then so you can see. So we'll be moving to the next node now. So the next node is an object. Alright, so I guess this would probably be a good avenue to this would be a good avenue to explain. So the next node is an object, and this would be a good avenue to just let's take a refresher. Again, you can know this overview. Now, what is your business that you are going to get it right? So we said that okay, there's syntax, and syntax is just the rules of conduct in the ways data is being structured, so that it makes sense. Now, the first we said is JSON is just a key value pair that is enclosed in curly braces, where the key, the name here is the key. The value of this name is John Doe. This is a key, the value is 30. As children is yes, this as children is key, the value is yes. Now we also said there are different data types. We said that we have a string. Now a string means that is a text, and that is how each node is going to process that information as text. And the rules states that if you want me to process this as a text, it has to come in a double quotes. It's just like saying, okay, oh, if you want to enter this, let's say you want to enter this gathering now. If you are wearing a black brown neck, I'm going to recognize you as this person. That's the same thing, that okay, I've enwrapped this in quotes, and that means you should treat it as a text. It doesn't matter whether it's a number like we saw earlier, as long as it's enwrapped in a double quote, it's going to be treated as a text basically. Now we said that the rule again is that every key must be wrapped in double quotes. It means that every key is treated as a text or a string rather. Every key, this is a key, and the key is wrapped in this double quotes, which makes it a string. So all the keys are strings basically. But now the values doesn't necessarily have to be a string, because there are different data types. It can be a number. This is a number 30 because why don't it is a number? Because it does not have any quotes around it. But this, although it's 30, it is a string, it is a text, and that's how it's going to be treated also. Then we said boolean. Boolean is just means that data type only has two outcomes, whether it is true or false. And then we have null. I said null is the intentional absence of a value. Then an array is a list basically, and for something to be treated as an array, it must be enclosed in this square bracket here. Now, if I open this node again, we're talking about all of this information, which is an array. And I said that this one here, this first element here, is a string. I don't even check anything for me to know. And the reason I know is not a very highfalutin thing. It's very, very simple. It's because of this double quotes. I know this is a string. I know this is a number because it is two and it doesn't have a quote around it. Once I say false, I know that it is Boolean, and then we have null. So we have that understanding. Now let's go to an object. Now, so I'm going to try and break this down as practical as possible. Because now this can be very confusing, especially if this is your first time. So in the initial example, I said that we have key value pairs. So let me go back here. Look at this one now. This is a key. The JSON example array is a key, and the value is an array. How do I know it's an array? Because it is enwrapped in this, see this square bracket between here and here. Now I go to the next node. This is also okay. This is null. If I go to this one here, this is also an adjacent object. The value is hungry. The key is hungry. The value is false. Now this JSON structure, it is flat. Now this JSON structure, it is flat. Now you're asking, what do I mean by flat again? Let's go to that other JSON expression. So you see the difference. So look at this now. Here we have still one JSON item. Why don't it's one JSON item? Because I can see that it is enwrapped from here now, let me just mark it. Okay. So everything between here and this here is a JSON. We can see that inside of this now, you can see now this is my key. This JSON example object is the key. But look at the value. The value is being enwrapped in this curly brace. And again, I said the rules of conduct is that anything that is wrapped in a curly brace is an object. So whenever we have an instance where the value, that's between this one now and this. So all of this between here, you can see it's wrapped in this curly brace and this brace, where this key, the value is a JSON object. Let me come again. Whenever we have an instance where the value of a key is a JSON object, that JSON is said to be nested or embedded. Please, this thing is not hard at all. Let me come again. We have a key. This is the key, JSON example object. Now, in the other instances where the value was also, let's say name is a key, value is Damola. Here, the value here is wrapped in a curly brace. And because I know that anything wrapped in a curly brace, that's between this and this, you can see there's one long wrap. Anything wrapped in that is a JSON object. So we have this whole JSON object inside of this JSON object. That is nested. That's nesting. So we say this JSON object is wrapped inside of this JSON object. Now they are not. So you say that okay? Does that mean that we have two items? No, it is still one item. Again, let's look at this. This sub-object. This sub-object is okay. So I do this. So this sub-object is a key. Now the value of this sub-object is another JSON object. Because how do I know? It's wrapped in this curly brace. That's between. So let me zoom in. So you can see the value is wrapped in this curly brace here. So the value of this sub-object is another JSON object. So that is called nesting. It's just like saying you have a pregnant woman, The pregnant woman is not, although there's a living being inside of that person, you're not looking at one person. Now, you see a pregnant woman, you say, so if a woman is not pregnant, she's flat. Let's just use that analogy, she's flat. Now, when you have a baby growing inside her, that baby, is wrapped in a covering called the womb. This is the womb of that baby. That's between here, exactly, between this curly brace and this, that's the covering, that's like the womb, where all of this is housed. So look at this, a baby. This baby is wrapped inside of this womb. And then we have this woman here, which is the one you are seeing physically. This is the woman that you are seeing. And the woman is wrapped inside of, the baby is wrapped inside of this woman. Now, inside that baby, again, let's say for the sake of just, explaining things, there's another baby growing inside that baby. That is this one. So you can see another JSON object inside of this. So you can see this one here. So we have this baby wrapped inside this bigger baby, and then the overall covering is this one. And again, we have the square brackets here that are representing that, okay, this is an array. Okay, so we have a list. So in this one now, we've learned about nested or embedded JSON, where we said, okay, it's just like, say, a woman is pregnant. When you see a pregnant woman, you know that she's carrying a baby, but she's still just one person, at least as of that time, until she gives birth to that baby. Now, in this instance, we have a key, and the value of the key is a JSON object. Now, I said again, look at now, this is the covering, from between this curly brace and this curly brace is that covering. So between this and this is that covering. This is where the baby is. This is the covering. Similar again, so you got to explain it now. You see, this is the womb of the baby. Now, the baby is being housed inside of a woman, which is between here and here. That's the rule of conduct to me. Now, you would never, no sinner would say, okay, you see, let's say your pregnant wife leaving your house and you say she's living naked. That doesn't just make sense. She has to wear a clothes, she has to wear a covering. That covering is this square brackets here. Do you understand? So you have your wife, your wife wants to go out, she has to wear a clothes. That's why, okay, your wife is your wife, she's saying, if you marry the same woman, she's wearing that clothes is this square bracket. Now, inside your pregnant woman is a baby that is growing inside the womb. That womb is from this point to this point here. And now that baby has another baby growing inside it, which is from this collie brace to this collie brace. So you are saying that there's a JSON object inside one JSON object. And inside that JSON object is an overall JSON object, that is this one. So this is the key, and the value of this key is a JSON object. That is called embedding, or that JSON object is embedded, or that JSON object is nested inside another JSON object. So we'll be moving to expressions. Now, first thing to say is that, okay, what does expression mean? If you look at this analogy, this is a fixed value. It means that every time I execute this step, so I click on execute, the value will always be hello, the number from the tutorial is. Now, let's say I want to let me just do this now. So let's say I drag. So anything allows you to do a drag and drop feature. So let's say I drag this here to this. Now this is an expression. This one, the value changes. In this instance now, the value is find me. But let's say the next instance, I put miss me. What's going to be represented there? You can see the result. The result is find me. If I change it to miss me, it is going to be miss me that you see here. So it changes per execution, depending on if the input value here changes, this is going to change. Unlike this fixed value remains the same unless I change it to, okay, I come back to change it to hello to from the, or let's say from a tutorial. They need to change to, you can see the result that has changed. But as long as I do not change it, if this runs 100 times, this hello, the number from tutorial, is going to remain like that for the 100 times. But this is an expression. It changes per execution. That's if the input changes, as long as this input, the input here for this subkey is find me. So this instance is just going to be find me. But if the next time this execution is running, the input is miss me, it's going to change to miss me. So now we save the number now. So of course we know that this is the number so I'm going to look for the value of that number, but we're referencing the number here. So hello, the number from the tutorial is, so this is the number. And how do I know it's a number? Recall I said that numbers are represented by hashtags. So you can see this is an hashtag here representing this number. This is Boolean. This is an array because there's a menu icon. This is a string. So since we're looking for the number, I just go and look, okay, this is the number. So that is that about expressions. Okay, so I'm looking for the array second item. So the very first thing you want to be sure is that you're in the expression. This is expression here. So I'm sure I'm in the expression. So I'll first type in my double curly brace, and then $sign means I want to look for something, like, okay, what am I looking for? This is the node I'm looking for, objects, which is this node here, objects. So again, there's an autocomplete function already. I'll just click on it. Now, I'm not inside this object yet. So enter into this object, I have to press period or full stop. Press the period. Now I'm looking for an item inside of this node. So I'm looking for an item. So I have to first type in item. Now that item is also a JSON. So JSON dot. Now look at this, an array. I have to enter into this. So I have to first reference the array. I need to enter this. Okay, so I need to first enter this JSON example object first, because inside this JSON example object, I have a key and I have an array. So, okay, there's autocomplete function, so just click on it. Now I'm inside this JSON example object. What am I looking for is an array. So I'll click on enter again. You can see the autocomplete again has come up. Array. Now you can see the results here. So I'm inside the array now, but I've not entered. I can see the results showing 1, 2, 3. This is the first item, comma, second item, comma, the third item. Now I'm looking for the second item. Usually now humans will start counting from 1. So this is 1, 2, and 3. So if I want to reference second item, if I put 2 now, so let's say I do this, and I put, okay, second item is number 2 now, and I click on 2. You see, second is bringing second item as 3, but that is wrong because this is the third item. Now you ask, so it's not as if If you want to be confused, but you should not be confused now because I told you that you start counting even whenever you have an item, an array, you start counting the first item in that array or in that list from zero. So the reference for the second item is one, not two, because I'm counting from zero. So zero is first item, one is second item. I'll just change this now to one. So what I put one, you can see is bringing up the second item, which is correct here. You can see you can, it might take some practice anyway, but I assure you this is not hard at all. It's something you are going to definitely get this. And I think I'm trying to explain it as simple as I can. So you're honestly going to get it's not hard at all. So that is all about JSON expressions. But like I said, you don't need to learn, you don't need to be, if you don't want to learn this, that's fine too. You can just do simple drag and drop. And honestly, that's what I do too. But knowing how to write means that okay, if in case where it's going to come in very useful is if you have an issue, maybe when you're building your workflows with a JSON expression. Since you know how to write it, you just understand that okay, this is where an issue is, or this is where the problem is, and just go ahead to fix that. So that is where the knowledge of this will come into play. But other than that, usually me too, I don't write in the region I'm doing workflows. I just do a drag and drop because who has that time to be writing? But knowing how to write just makes you know how to debug things with their issues later on. So that is about JSON expressions, or JSON expression rather. So yeah, say final, final exam. Yeah. What does that mean? A summary number. This is actually a very good example. So let's say you want to debug now. You see this error now. How do you even know what the problem is? And the first thing I will do is now look at this expression. It's showing red, undefined. Now this this dollar, then open bracket, then the hyphen, and then the no sorry the quotes rather single quotes with the number that you are seeing. It's telling me that okay, the node that we're referencing is called number. So I'll just come here and look for where is the node that is number. It is this node. So I'm just open up the node, you know. So I open up the node and immediately I can see what the problem is. Now I want to pull an item that is a JSON, but the name of that what we're looking for is JSON example integer. But what is here is age and JSON example float. So what do? I just come here, you know, I delete all of this because I know what I'm looking for is not this, is age. So I just type in age and you can see it's bringing up 10 and 10, which is the age. If it's the other one, the other number I want to bring is JSON example float. I'll just come here again. I just need to change the name so it will be JSON example. Exactly. And the reason it's even showing age is because I already changed this. Remember earlier on, I changed it was JSON example integer and JSON example float, which is a very good example now. Sometimes when I change something and down the line, what's the your download is expecting is not what's the name of that, or it's not what the value of the key is. So you can see how it can throw up errors, and if you don't understand these basics, you don't understand how to debug, and it just takes time to basically um circumvent or debug this kind of issues. Again, here is another error we are seeing. The node that is being referenced, if you can guess, is Boolean. How do I know? Because I can see that this a bracket and this inside this single quote is Boolean. So just come and open up the Boolean and I can see, so it is expecting to see JSON example Boolean, but what is here is just hungry. So do I have to type? I'll delete what was there already. And I put, sorry, hungry, apostrophe, hungry, apostrophe, sorry, okay, Boolean, okay. So you can see now, this is showing, it has totally brought up the value, which is false, and is referencing this. I can see now the rest of your nodes are correct. So like I said, this takes some practice, but once you practice, watch the video again, and I'm sure you're going to understand. So if you enjoyed this video, please, I really appreciate your support. Liking the video helps the YouTube algorithm share or just raise the awareness of my video to other audiences, which would mean a world of difference to me. So thank you so much. And don't forget to subscribe. Please subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.